Okay, let's talk about cybersecurity, but maybe not in the way you're used to. For just a minute, forget all the code, forget the servers. Instead, I want you to picture this. You're the defender of a giant, sprawling digital castle. So the big question is, how do you actually protect it?
And that's the real challenge, right? In our digital world, the weak spots, the vulnerabilities, they're not always some big, obvious hole in the wall. Nope, they're more like invisible doors that attackers are just constantly rattling, hoping to find one that's unlocked. So how in the world do you find them before they do? Well, that's exactly what vulnerability assessment is all about.
So step one has to be finding those cracks in our castle walls before the bad guys do. And I gotta tell you, this is so much more than just running some automated scan and getting a printout. It's a real strategy, a deliberate hunt to find out where you're most exposed.
And here's the official term for it, vulnerability assessment. Now, the words you really want to hang on to here are identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing. It's kind of like a three-step dance. See, it's not enough to just find the problems. You have to figure out how bad they are, and this is the crucial part, which ones you absolutely have to fix first.
This right here breaks it down perfectly. A weak spot, a vulnerability, isn't really a risk all by itself. It only becomes a true danger when you factor in a threat, an attacker who's looking for that weakness, and then you have to consider the impact. What's the treasure they could get away with? This is the simple formula for risk, and it's what turns a technical glitch into a real-world business problem.
So, how do big organizations actually do this without just guessing? Well, it's not like they're just winging it. The entire industry really leans on two essential tools, a playbook that gives them a process to follow, and a scorecard that helps them measure the danger. And here they are, our two tools, side by side. On one hand, you have NIST. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Think of that as your playbook. It lays out the whole step-by-step process. On the other side, you've got CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. That's your scorecard. It gives every single vulnerability a number. Answering that simple question, how bad is this thing really? You absolutely need both to defend your castle well.
Now let's take a closer look at that NIST playbook. You can see how these steps just build on each other, logically. You start by figuring out the threats and vulnerabilities. Then, you estimate the likelihood of an attack and the potential impact. That's the exact formula we just talked about. It's only after you weigh all of those factors that you get a clear picture of the overall risk. This turns what could be a total guessing game into a repeatable, objective process. All right, now let's zoom in on that scorecard, because once we have a process, we need a way to measure just how severe the things we find are. And this is where a technical score gets turned into a smart business decision.
You see a number like this, a 9.8 out of 10, labeled critical. And yeah, your heart might skip a beat. And that's the point. This is what that CVSS scorecard does. It's designed to grab your attention and communicate just how urgent something is in a really simple, standard way.
The truly powerful thing about the CVSS scale is that it creates a common language. Doesn't matter if you're a security engineer deep in the weeds or you're the CEO. You can look at this scale and instantly get a sense of how bad things are. A medium issue? Yeah, something to keep an eye on. But critical? That's an all-hands-on-deck, drop-everything situation.
But where does a number like 9.8 even come from? It's not just pulled out of thin air. It's calculated using 3 different groups of metrics. First is the base score, which looks at the flaw itself. Is it easy to exploit? Then there's the temporal score, which looks at things that change over time, like is there a patch available? Is malware already using this thing out in the wild? And finally, and this part is key, the environmental score. This tailors the risk to your specific castle. A vulnerability on a public-facing website is way, way more dangerous than the exact same flaw on some test machine locked in a lab.
And this quote right here, this is probably the most important lesson of all. A super high technical score doesn't automatically make it your #1 priority. I mean, think about it. Imagine you have a critical 9.8 vulnerability on a test server with 0 important data. But at the same time, you find a high 8.0 on the main database that runs your entire company. Which one are you going to fix first? The answer is obvious, right? It's all about context and aligning your defense with what actually matters to the business. So when you bring it all together, the playbook and the scorecard, what do you actually get? What's the payoff? Well, it's not just about patching a few things. It's about building a fundamentally smarter defense and a stronger, more resilient digital castle. This is why this whole process is so fundamental to cybersecurity today. It lets organizations get ahead of the game to be proactive instead of just reacting to disasters. It makes sure that your time and your money are spent on the risks that could actually hurt the business. You're not just plugging holes at random, you're reinforcing the most important parts of your fortress first.
And that really brings us to the final thought here. This is not a one-and-done kind of thing. The attackers are always getting smarter, always finding new ways in, which means new invisible doors are appearing all the time. So the real question isn't just, have you done an assessment? It's, is your assessment process continuous? Is it evolving right alongside the threats?